Hey everybody, it's your boy Joe Fighter 21, and I'm coming here to talk to you a little bit about hatred. I know I haven't been on recently doing a lot of videos, but I've been busy with a lot of conflict and other emotional and relationship matters. But the number one thing that I've realized about hatred is everyone can do it. Everyone. You're not special because you hate somebody. If anything, you're completely normal because you hate somebody. Normal being average. Everybody can hate somebody. Everybody can tie their own shoes unless they're paralyzed. But I digress. Hatred is a low vibration. And those of you who don't know too much about spirituality or the idea of energy and the frequencies that we produce and project to one another, you give off a certain frequency whenever you're feeling a high vibration or a low vibration energy. And when you're feeling high vibration, this is what a lot of people call love or happiness. You feel the butterflies in your chest. You feel that warm, fuzzy feeling right in here. That's a high vibration. That's the love of the universe inside of you. And when you feel hatred, you feel kind of weighed down. You feel like something's deep in the pit of your stomach just holding you there. And it's like almost an intense pain. And it feels like the only way you can get that pain out is to project it onto others or to hurt others or do something. And it's just because, as a low vibrational energy, it's super easy to get sucked into it. It's like quicksand. Hatred is one of those things that, once you let it get a hold of you, once you start hating somebody, that becomes a part of your life. That becomes a part of your day. It occupies precious time and energy that you could be focusing on something else, but you're not. You're focusing on something you hate. And when you focus that much time and energy on something you hate, it can only result in negative things. Because, by you hating it, it does nothing. It just shows that it is worth enough to where you care enough to where you want to destroy it. And, that speaks very badly on you. Because it's showing that you're willing to try and destroy something else because you don't like it. For whatever reason, the way it makes you feel, the way you feel around it, Hatred, it's a very interesting thing because, it borderlines on, I guess, love or admiration or whatever. You meet a new person and, you don't really know much about them and you want to learn more about them. But, say you were meeting somebody who you didn't really know too well, and then the next day, somebody who you did know came up and was like, oh yeah, they're a fucking asshole. I hate that person. Now you're being influenced to hate that person as well. And if you let that happen, you're basically allowing yourself to be manipulated by other people. You're letting yourself be sucked into this hate fest. You're like, I don't really understand the guy. I didn't really know the guy. If he's crazy, that makes sense because I did feel a little off around him. And that gives you the right to hate him or her or whoever, all because you didn't want to take the time to really get to know them. You just wanted to take it on hearsay. Oh, he's a bad guy? Okay, I won't talk to him. Oh, she's a bitch? I won't talk to her. Why? Just because she's a bitch or he's a jerk to one person doesn't mean that he's a jerk to everyone or a bitch to everyone. It's this concept that everyone believes that we can go off other people's experience. We can go off like, oh, well, Tim said this, or well, Sarah said this, or Elise said that. It doesn't matter a damn thing because it's hearsay. If you were in a court of law and somebody tried to come up with the same argument that they'd get to make you hate somebody as convicting them as a criminal offense, you'd call them on their bullshit. You'd call them crazy and you'd say they're obsessed with this subject, get a restraining order. That's it. But because people are so, I guess, willing to, reject the new and just accept the old, because, you're not used to feeling anything other than hatred. You grow up every day in your life. You are taught to hate policemen or, white people or black people or whatever. You're taught by your family at certain times to be hateful of certain groups, whether it be ethnic groups or racial groups or even hating parts of yourself. I mean, me personally, I grew up with I'm a mixed race. If none of you could tell, I have multiple races inside of me. White, El Salvadorian, Native American, and I even have a bit of African American. I'm a hybrid, and growing up, I had more hatred than I could ever even imagine. I mean, it's the main reason I had to learn to do martial arts at a young age was because I got called a mutt, a half-breed, just terrible shit. And at my young age, I was probably about 5 or 6 when I started doing this. That young age when people call you that stuff and they look down on you, it makes you feel terrible. It makes you feel that hatred inside you. They're hating on you, so you feel the urge to project it back. And that's what I did at a young age. I projected it back. They'd say mean things to me, challenge them to a fight, we'd fight, and, normally I'd win. Maybe it's because I was in the right, maybe it's because I don't know, had more training. Regardless, I realized that fighting hatred with hatred is pointless. Completely and utterly pointless. Because, hatred is one of those things that never goes away. It's just this endless cycle. It's like that person that you can throw weapons at for days and all they do is catch the weapon and throw it right back at you. Regardless if you stick it into him, all that you do when you hate somebody back or hate somebody first is you're giving them energy. You're giving them a reason to hate you back as well. So if you hate somebody based on hearsay and you do something based off that hatred, it doesn't matter if you were in the right in your mind. He's going to see that as a personal attack on him. And he's going to hate you for that since you invaded his personal space and went against his will. And these things could have been avoided if you hadn't have acted on your initial hatred. The hatred based on hearsay. The hatred of, oh, I heard he's a jerk. Or, oh, I heard he's mean. Or, oh, I heard he did this to somebody else. And, I don't approve of that. How do you know that's true? How do you know any of that is true? How do you know somebody isn't trying to fuck with you and implant lies into your mouth? Head. You never heard of rumors? Have you never had a rumor told about you? Have you ever had any idea how frustrating that is? See, people will tell rumors about you all day. I've talked to plenty of people. I've had rumors said about myself as well. Had horrible shit said about me, about my friends. And the worst part about that kind of hatred is it's everywhere. It's like that little fly in the room that you can't kill. It's like, even if you tried, it just evades you even more elusively because it knows that you're looking for it. It's the same thing with haters and people who like to spread rumors and gossip. They're all just trying to tear you down because they see you as something that is in opposition to them because they're not secure in themselves. They're like, oh, I don't like that guy because, he makes me feel intimidated. Or, oh, I don't like that guy, he makes me feel dumb. Or, oh, I don't like that girl, she makes me feel ugly. Or, I don't like that girl because she, gets too much attention from guys. Or whatever. It's all these, you trying to hate on them because they have something that you don't. And if you were smart, and if you could actually see past this, you would see that instead of hating this person, if you would just talk to this person, maybe you could learn from this person. Even if you didn't like him at first, how do you know he's such a bad guy or a bad girl? How do you know that this person isn't worthy of love? You condemn them so quickly, and then you tell others not to judge you. That is the hypocrisy of it right there. Because nobody wants to be judged, no one wants to be hated on, but at the same time we're taught to strive to have haters, because to have a hater means that you're doing something right. And that's the funny part, is people understand this concept, and they say it all the time, yet they never follow it. This world is full of a lot of people who have advice, and yet they never actually take it themselves. And I've been guilty of this myself. Just a few weeks I was feeling kind of insecure about myself, and I kind of regressed somewhat. And but that isn't really anything to really be ashamed of in my mind. Because, as a creative person and as somebody who's a musician and an artist, I know I experience highs and lows, and I know I can have periods where I'm very happy and periods where I'm very sad. Some people mistake this for being bipolar, but I see it as just me going through the creative process. Because, it's the pain plus tragedy that creates art. If you actually go through something terrible as a young boy, and then you grow up and maybe you make a song, or maybe you make a painting, or maybe you become an inspirational speaker. You talk to people about your experience. They can resonate with you because they've all had an same experience like that. They can feel that you are speaking from your heart. You aren't just speaking out of your ass. You're not speaking out of here or anywhere else or here. You're speaking right from here, right in your soul. And when people can hear that and feel that you're speaking from your soul, all the lies and all the bullshit that they've heard about you tends to just disappear. And that's why people are afraid to get to know each other. Because they're afraid to be deceived. They're afraid to be tricked into believing that somebody is a good person when they're not, or somebody is a bad person when they are a good person. But you You'll never know unless you try. And you can't go based off hearsay on whether or not you like a person or whether or not you approve of an idea. It can't be because your friend said so, or because your girlfriend said so, or because your boyfriend's brothers, sisters, uncles, aunt, whatever said so. Just because they think that and they feel that way doesn't mean that they're right. Never, ever should you take someone else's experience as your own. Ever. Life is a journey. It's a path. And no one's path is the same as another's. We may be going in the same direction, but they're not the same path. And people who I've talked to who are more, aware of this idea of hatred and like the actual nonsense that is involved in it. The fact that, you can't hate somebody because there's the spiritual belief that, everyone is a reflection of each other. Whereas when you see somebody, you see someone you like or see somebody you don't like. Even if you see somebody you like, you see a piece of you inside of them. You're like, oh, he acted a lot like me when I was younger. Or he acts a lot like me back like last year when I was like a freshman or whatever. You see a little bit of you inside of them. And this is where hatred comes in. You see, I don't know, somebody who's, a terrible person. And don't get me wrong, there are some terrible people out there. You see somebody like, I don't know, a homeless person or a bum or somebody who is like an alcoholic or an abusive person. And you think, oh, that's such a terrible person. But you can remember back to a point in time where you were thinking of doing that. Where you were thinking, what would happen if I just smacked this fool for no reason? Or what would happen if I just downed this bottle of vodka? Or what would happen if, I decided to fucking abuse my friends? You had these moments of thinking of, should I? But then you thought better. And for that, you grew. And then there are people who have the same situation where, should I? Yeah, why not? And then they do it. And then they have to suffer the consequences. And then when you put your finger at them saying that they're so terrible for doing this, yeah, they may be terrible for doing this, but you can't deny the fact that in a different situation, under different circumstances, you may very well have done the same. And every person who is out there, every person that you see, is on their own internal struggle. They're all fighting an uphill battle. A lot of people, you talk to them, they have a smile on their face. But, it's the people who smile the most that tend to need the most help. I mean, I try and smile a lot just so I can help my friends and create a positive environment where they don't feel a lot of animosity or depression or anything like that. I try and make people feel good. That's what I like to do. I'm a musician. I love to inspire people to feel good about themselves and to feel confident and, ready to take on life. And, I see so many people nowadays that they're just, it's like they're a beaten down, abused woman or, animal. They've been so used to feeling like they're not good enough or they're not strong enough or they're not smart enough, they're not enough. They have this feeling of feeling incomplete and they hate themselves for it. But it's because they're told to feel this way by like society and the people around them. The clothing fads, the popular fads, all of that. And it's just their way of taking control of you. They want to make you feel bad and then tell you, buy our shit and you'll feel better. Oh, there's that empty hole in your heart? Well, here, have some material shit to fill it with. That'll make you feel better. For about a second. It's just like a band-aid. It's supposed to heal, but it doesn't really have any lasting effect. Other than, hey, you're doing something. That's it. But I digress. Hatred. It's a ridiculous abomination, but you must learn to process it, and you must learn to, accept it as an everyday part of life. And, those who try and reject hatred or try and reject their past and hate the people who made them feel this way, is when you do that, when you hate somebody, like, say it's an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend or, your stepfather or somebody who was in your life at a point of time that you did care about at one point and you gave a fuck about, and now you treat them like shit and you hate them. that right there was the wrong thing to do, because even if somebody did do something terrible to you, and I've had people do terrible things to me, and I'll still forgive them. I'll never forget it, but I'll still forgive them, because I accept that what they did, even though it was fucked up at the time, helped shape me and make me into the person I am. And I'm not bitter for that. I'm not bitter at all. If anything, I'm happy, because it was through this shaping and through all this trial by fire and conflict that I was actually able to make myself into who I am. And it was me transforming me into who I am. And you can do it too. Everyone can change, and everyone has to change, or you're gonna stagnate. You're gonna stay the same, and you're gonna look up one day and you'll be 45 years old and you're gonna have a midlife crisis because you never had the balls to really look past all the bullshit and all the hatred that you felt. And all I can say is, it's not worth it. Hating your fellow man is completely stupid. This is coming from a martial artist, somebody who used to spend all my days practicing and getting ready to fight people, because I had a lot of conflicts growing up. I had a lot of people who didn't like me. I didn't like a lot of people as well, because when you feel hated, naturally the natural response is to hate back. But it's that immature mindset of he's hitting me, I'm gonna hit him back, instead of he's hitting me. Is something wrong with him? And then you take the time to talk to this person. You find out he's being abused at home, or you find out he's confused about his sexuality. It's never as black and white as you like to think it is. When you hate a person, you're only seeing it from one point of view, your point of view, or even worse, someone else's point of view. And you shouldn't base your own perceptions off someone else's perception. It's as simple as that. You shouldn't hate somebody based off one opinion or one set of information from one person. Because if we did that, every time we listened to Fox News and we heard something drastic happening, we would have gone to war already. It's because we actually have the ability as a society and as people to objectively look at things and understand them. I understand what you're saying here, but I can tell that it's emotionally charged, and it's not exactly the most airtight or foolproof or fact-filled. It's based off a lot of emotion, and emotions lie, because emotions are essentially inspired by your different mood swings, and that's where the term getting emotional comes from. Is you get to that standing point where you lose control over yourself somewhat when you get too emotional. I've been there before. I've been to the point of I was so angry and so upset after a certain point that I just didn't want to deal or see with anyone. I didn't feel anything but contempt for everybody. And it wasn't until I actually kind of came out of that and came down and got to take a look at everything and everyone that I realized it wasn't their fault. It's all of our faults, collectively, for hatred. It's because we're unwilling to truly bury the hatchet and put the freaking weapons away. We're always so obsessed with revenge and holding grudges. And this person hurt me, so I want to hurt them back. And don't get me wrong, I'm not some Jesus freak telling you to turn the other cheek. If somebody hits you or tries to abuse you, by all means defend yourself. But never go seeking violence. Never go seeking conflict for the sheer satisfaction of your hatred. Because, when you go out seeking that, you're going to find it. That's the law of the universe. When you go and project yourself and you act a certain way, you act hate-filled and you want to destroy things, you're going to attract things that are hate-filled and want to destroy things. And, this is why a lot of young men are in prison nowadays. Because they just have too much hatred, they have too much animosity towards everything. Everyone, their way of life, their way of doing things, the way the world works. You get frustrated. Because, it is a frustrating thing when you get to see how warped this world is, and how crazy it is. This world is run off just narcissism. Just the concept of I'm amazing and everybody should fucking love me since I'm special. But everybody feels that way, and nobody ever comes to the realization that, to love you for being special, you're going to have to actually develop something special. You're not amazing if you sit on your butt all day and say how great you are. The only way to, prove that you're anything or anyone, have any type of self-worth, is to actually progress and to change. The only way to change is to change the way you think. That's the first step. Changing the way you act around this world, the energy that you give off. Do I give off a hateful, resentful vibe? Because if you do, you're going to give off that idea that you want to be around a bunch of hateful, resentful people. Because, haters beget more haters. Positive people beget more positive people. Some call this karma. I call it the universal law of attraction. You get what you give. It's really as easy as that. Well, I think that's all I got for you today. Have a good night. I'm Joe Fighter 21.